Dear learners, we shall be continuing with our lectures on artificial intelligence and business law. And in this particular lecture, we'll be looking at how AI can be deployed in legal research contexts, how it can also help in analyzing legal data and to process legal information, and some discussion on contracts, specifically smart contracts. So let's begin with talking about how is AI applied in legal contexts. So AI in legal research involves usage of various technologies aimed at improving and simplifying the analysis as well as interpretation of legal information. So we use a technology called natural language processing, which we'll talk about in just a minute. NLP, AI tools can quickly analyze legal documents, extracting relevant information and identifying key concepts with high precision. So you can really narrow down the level of analysis that you're doing. You can analyze a lot of data, more than what a human being can, maybe more than what a bunch of human beings working together can, an entire team. So AI tools can quickly analyze legal documents and they can extract the relevant information and they can identify key concepts with high precision. This capability allows legal professionals to find relevant precedents and insights more quickly and accurately than manual searches. So, how is this happening? How is the AI system used in the legal field able to find the relevant precedents and insights more quickly than manual searches? That is because AI technologies have this inbuilt sense of pattern recognition, as we talked about earlier as well. So, because of this capability of large scale recognition of patterns over time and across different categories of data, so they can, those identification of patterns can really help in the legal field where you are looking at precedent, where you're looking at similar cases arguing about a similar point. So by leveraging these advanced AI algorithms and machine learning techniques, AI can handle large volumes of legal data, such as case law, statutes, regulations, and legal commentary, more effectively and efficiently than your traditional approaches. So, when you use AI in legal research like this, it can lead to a streamlining of workflows. You can really organize your work much better when you have certain things that are handled using AI tools. You can reduce your costs, your labor, your efforts, and you can thereby increase your efficiency. However, at the same time, it must be said that this is not a replacement for a human professional legal expert completely. You will need the legal experts view on things, their expertise, their skill to make sense of whatever pattern the AI is providing. It is not as if whatever the AI is giving you, you just mindlessly accept it. That is not a proper way to use AI. So you will need legal expertise to know what to look for. You will need legal expertise to understand the data that it is giving. No data is useful without the interpretation you have of that data. If you have a bunch of data points that the AI has analyzed, it's useless if you don't have an interpretation of that data, if you don't apply those insights to somewhere meaningful. So anyway, we can use AI tools to help our work. We can use AI tools to assist us in studying case law, statutes, regulations, and legal commentaries more effectively. So it might minimize the chances of human mistakes. It might improve our precision and speed. It might help us to retrieve information better. And because AI algorithms learn from vast data sets and because they continuously improve their performance over time, they might offer insightful recommendations and reveal connections that might not be apparent through your conventional research techniques. Like I said before, the pattern recognition of it might allow you to see things that you might not have seen if you analyze it yourself. But of course, the converse is also true. Sometimes you might find ways of looking at data that the AI might not be able to get. So it is supposed to enhance your own skills. It is not supposed to replace you. It is supposed to augment your intelligence and your skills. So when you use it properly, it can really help you become more efficient and make your work much better. So, and talking specifically about businesses, because we're also talking about business law here. So, AI can also help businesses make better choices in legal decision making. So, not just doing the actual legal research part, what you do once you have done the legal research is you make a decision based on that research. you have an outcome, you have a result. So legal decision making, particularly in questions of compliance and risk analysis, when businesses want to find out how best to manage compliance, AI can identify, assess, and mitigate risks within corporate operations, and the predictive analysis capabilities of AI can be used to forecast potential issues. Technologies such as machine learning algorithms and predictive analytics are used to detect frauds, to assess risk, and automated trading. For example, AI driven tools can analyze transaction patterns in real time to identify anomalies that may indicate fraudulent activity, significantly reducing the risk of financial crimes. AI can also assist in more precise and thorough analysis of contract clauses as well as other legal documents, making it invaluable as a tool for legal research. Hence, AI can really help us in both legal research as well as legal decision making, but we have to be careful and mindful of how we use it. Then we want to specifically talk about natural language processing. Like I mentioned before, what is natural language processing? So basically, natural language processing tools are those AI tools that enable legal researchers to go through massive databases of using plain natural language rather than rigid keywords. This greatly simplifies the searching of precedents and relevant judgments, and it makes the process faster and more intuitive for legal professionals. So it can analyze text for semantic meaning. It allows for the identification of relevant case laws from multiple jurisdictions, and it enhances your scope and breadth of your legal strategy preparation. So, what happens is when you have large scale litigation processes, AI powered analytics is much more useful than your traditional manual review when you're reviewing hundreds or thousands of documents. So, they can so AI-powered analytics can process terabytes of documents, emails, communications in a fraction of the time a human team would require. But of course, the issue of hallucination is still there. So when we are using generative AI, which is generating an output, generating text, video, images, there's a problem of hallucinations, which is where the AI makes up things that don't exist because the internal logic of the AI does not follow our logic of the world. What we know as true or false is not known by the AI system. It does not have any inherent foundation of what is true and what is false. And so this is inherent in its working because what the AI is doing is essentially predicting the next word. It is not using language in the way that I or you do. It is going through the entire set of human languages that it understands, and it knows what the probability of each word following another word is. So if I say I am using an AI tool, so it will figure out what is the probability of I am using being followed by an AI tool is. I am eating food. So the chances of the word food coming after the word eating, how often is that going to happen? How likely is it? If I ask it a question, how much of a chance is that this question will have this particular answer, this particular string of sentences or string of words? So it analyzes the probability of each word after another. And that is why you might ask the same AI model the same question and it might give you a different answer every time because the randomness in that probability is inherent. So you don't know which answer it will give you. It might have similar answers, but they might all read differently. And of course, because it is doing this because of probability, that means it does not know if what it is saying is true or false. All the companies are working on reducing hallucinations, but for the most part, scholars say that hallucinations are something that are inherent to the system because the system does not know if whatever it has said is true or false. If I say law is a command of the sovereign, so you might say that this is a true fact because it is a philosophical statement, it is a philosophical statement in jurisprudence. But the AI does not know if it is a true statement or if it is a false statement. It has no conception of true or false. So AI hallucinations refer to instances where the system generates completely fabricated or inaccurate information, such as citing non existent case laws or misrepresenting legal statutes. So, of course, this is an even bigger issue in the legal context. If you're using generative AI in the legal context, generating summaries of cases, it might make up cases that don't exist. It might make up statutes that don't exist. It might make up sections that don't exist. This risk is very high with large language models, and because a lawyer is professionally and ethically responsible for the accuracy of any submission to a court, any reliance on unverified AI output that you have not gone through carefully, if you have not, if you have not seen if it is accurate or not, if it contains hallucinations, it can lead to severe professional sanctions, emphasizing the need for rigorous human validation of all AI generated research. So you use natural language processing, but you use it carefully. You understand how it works, you understand the weaknesses as well as the advantages, and then you use it. So then we talk about another very important aspect related to AI in business law, that is regulatory compliance. So ensuring regulatory compliance, especially regulatory change management, is critical to any business. This entails strict adherence to laws, guidelines, specifications relevant to business processes. Businesses must follow best practice for data handling and ensure confidentiality and transparency of processing of personal data in order to comply with data protection laws as well as privacy laws. So, because as we talked about before, AI systems rely on large volumes of personal data to function effectively. And this raises questions about how this data is collected, stored, and used. For example, data might be collected by an AI model for a particular use case A, and it is stored there, and the use A has expired. It is no longer needed. But who can say that this data that was collected for the use A might be used for the use B later on? Even though the people who gave you that data, maybe it's personal data of some people, they did not give consent for a second use later on because it was not deleted. So there is no consent for the data that is obtained for one task but later on used in another task. So there are questions about how data is collected, stored, and used. You need consent if you're using the old data for a new task as well. So, security risks and AI systems are also vulnerable to cyber attacks, such as data breaches and adversarial attacks. Now, what are adversarial attacks? Adversarial attacks are those attacks that manipulate the AI's algorithms to produce incorrect outcomes. And last but not the least, businesses must also take into account the issues related to jurisdiction that come up because of AI. Because of how AI observes jurisdictions, a person using AI in one country might be impacting certain operation in another country, and how the data is used, data might be stored in a third country. So there are those jurisdictional issues that come up with using AI, so businesses also have to take care of that as well to ensure regulatory compliance. Then we come to a very important topic, that is smart contracts. Smart contracts as differentiated from regular contracts. So what are smart contracts? Let's look at some definitions of smart contracts. So there are two definitions we have here which are both very similar. So the first definition says that a smart contract is a computer program or a transaction protocol that is intended to automatically execute, control, or document events and actions according to the terms of a contract or an agreement. So it's essentially a computer program, and a computer program is supposed to automatically execute certain contractual obligations or processes. So the second definition might make it clearer. A smart contract is a self-executing contract where the terms of the agreement are written directly into code through the blockchain. So what is a blockchain? Blockchain is basically what is known as a distributed ledger technology, where data is stored in blocks that are chained together, and the computer is keeping a record of every single transaction. And basically once the transaction is recorded, it cannot be changed or modified with in any way. So that's a very simple definition of blockchain. But for the purpose of smart contracts, we need to understand that the blockchain will have a record of all the transactions that a person is undertaking, and the smart contract will execute automatically whenever the conditions for the execution are met. So these are self-executing contracts where the terms of the agreement are directly written into code. Smart contracts are programmable and embedded in a blockchain and automatically enforce contractual terms once predefined. So smart contracts are a computer program or a transaction protocol, a series of transactions that is intended to automatically execute, control, or document events and actions according to the terms of contract or an agreement. They are self-executing contracts, but the terms of the agreement are directly written into code. Smart contracts are thus programmable and embedded in the blockchain and automatically enforce contractual terms once predefined conditions are met. And they offer solutions that are more transparent, efficient, and resilient to fraud. So the main thing that we need to understand with smart contracts is that they are essentially a software, a computer program, but the working is more or less the same as normal contracts. So, how do we understand contracts in relation to the Contract Act 1872? So, the main thing to understand is that they are a special form of contracts, and as long as the essential conditions for the enforcement of a valid contract under the Contract Act 1872 are fulfilled, they will be treated the same as regular contracts. So, what does Section 10 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 say? It speaks about the essential nature of a contract, that all agreements are contracts if they hold free consent of parties willing to contract for a lawfully accepted consideration. So, let's go over all these points. Offer and acceptance. A valid offer, often manifested through digital actions like clicking I agree or initiating a transaction, must be unequivocally accepted by another party. Then consideration. Each party must provide something of value in exchange for the other party's promise or performance. This could, in the context of smart contracts, include cryptocurrency, digital assets, or the execution of specific tasks within the smart contract. Then the intention to create legal relations. The parties involved must intend for their agreement to have legal consequences, creating a binding obligation enforceable by law. And then the capacity to contract, that all parties must be legally competent to enter into a contract, meaning that they must be of legal age and sound mind. So, all of these things that apply to regular contracts are applicable to smart contracts as long as all these conditions are fulfilled. So, what are smart contracts used in? There are many uses. Enhancing automation. So smart contracts act as strong tools for automation in the legal field. They reduce the need for human involvement and they lower human manual errors. They are being used to automate regular tasks. Now, what regular tasks are we talking about? Regular tasks such as payments, checking documents, escalations, allowing legal professionals to focus on advisory tasks. Then we have real time insurance adjustment. So, insurance claims, policy changes can happen instantly. Events like bad weather or accidents can trigger automatic checks and payments without the usual waiting periods, which also helps cut down on fraud by recording all triggers and transactions on an immutable distributed ledger. So, the distributed ledger is what blockchain is, that it records all transactions and the record cannot be changed. There is a complete verifiable record. So, it ensures safety, it ensures immutability. So innovation in healthcare record management. Using blockchain system, because you have a series of records that the computer has verified as true, every single transaction is verified as true in the blockchain. So when you're using this technology, you're using smart contracts, using robust blockchain systems can automate access control and update medical histories in real time, ensuring that only approved individuals can view or change records. And this helps streamline services and ensures compliance with strict privacy laws. Then you have supply chain management. They provide a single source of truth for product authenticity, provenance, and logistical milestones. Smart contracts can release funds automatically when goods reach predefined checkpoints. So it can help you in having a single source which you can point towards to ascertain that your product is authentic, because the blockchain records every transaction that allows for authenticity. Simplifying simplifying the buying and selling process of something like real estate by removing middlemen and providing more security for transactions. So ownership of property can be automatically transferred on chain upon payment. And then, last but not the least, central bank digital currencies, that is blockchain technology and smart contracts, being the backbone for many CBDC projects, where central banks come up with their own digital currency that are based on blockchain technology, enabling programmable payments and instant settlements for national digital currencies. Then, what role does AI have to play with smart contracts? So, as I said before, smart contracts are self executing. So AI can be used to write, audit, and negotiate the terms of a smart contract, because even if it is a smart contract, it's still a contract and it has certain terms. So AI can be used to write, audit, and negotiate the terms of a contract, a smart contract, before it is deployed on the blockchain. AI tools can analyze complex regulatory environments and optimize contract code for efficiency, minimizing any bugs or logical errors that could lead to financial loss. And this process helps ensure that the coded contract accurately reflects the legal intent of the party. Then there are certain issues also with smart contracts as well, that are larger issues with blockchain technology as well. So, like all other technological innovations, we have to be very careful and be mindful of the risks that also come with using any kind of technology. So, with smart contracts and blockchain, there is an issue of a misinterpretation of real world events. If the contract is running by itself on certain conditions, there is a chance that it might misinterpret certain things as conditions. So, the immutability of smart contracts, the fact that you cannot change the working of the blockchain once it is in motion, once it is in use. So, the immutability of smart contracts poses legal challenges when an AI introduces errors or where external real world events are misinterpreted by the code. So once a smart contract is executed, it is often irreversible. And that makes assigning fault and liability very difficult if it's an AI's input that's causing the unintended outcome. So current legal frameworks are still struggling to address liability when a coded system rather than a human, an AI, a software, a program, causes a permanent breach of contract. So this is a legal gray area and it is still something that is evolving. Then the legal status of AI contracts, although the Indian Contract Act is largely applicable to smart contracts, there might still be some sort of uncertainty on certain aspects of smart contracts. For example, there's an issue of digital signatures. So some argue that the IT Act, because it provides for digital signatures, covers smart contracts, and some argue that it does not. That the very working of digital signatures in the context of smart contracts are different. So that is something for you to explore. So otherwise, there's also other concerns such as enforceability and consumer protection concerns related to the legal standing of contracts created by AI. Then bias and transparency. See, the opacity of AI algorithms and the potential of bias and discrimination, which we have talked about before, they are major risks that highlight the need for greater transparency and human oversight. And then, of course, machine learning allows for information asymmetries. So, merchants, firms, they might exploit the use of big data, creating a difference in the level of information that is available to a human, a consumer versus the business. So when these businesses are contracting with individual consumers, they might have access to much more knowledge about and information. They might have access to much more knowledge and information about their consumers than the consumer may be having about them. And this creates an asymmetry of information. So this also is an issue when it comes to AI and smart contracts. So what are the larger legal implications of AI in forming contracts and in performance of contracts? So, like we talked about before, AI is an electronic agent, it can formation. So AI can act as an electronic agent in contract formation because it has the capacity to autonomously offer, accept, and negotiate terms. And because of this kind of agency that AI has, this is difficult for traditional contract law, which relies on a meeting of minds between two human parties. So the legal question is whether the human principal who launched the AI is bound by all the terms that the agent autonomously agreed upon. Now, in this context, you might remember we talked about the AI case related to Air Canada, where the chatbot on the company's website promised a discount. So the court had ruled that the company is liable for whatever chatbot promises. Then the use of non-transparent black box AI in contract performance creates a legal risk regarding foreseeability and breach of implied duties. So if an AI system managing a supply chain makes a delivery decision that breaches a contract, the human party may struggle to prove that the breach was foreseeable or to explain the AI's internal reason. Explainable. The AI not being explainable can undermine attempts to establish negligence or intent in court. Then, as we talked about before as well, jurisdictional issues might also arise. So, jurisdictional issues arise when AI agents transact across borders, determining which nation's law governs the contract's formation and resolution. So, an AI agent might operate globally from a server in one country, while transacting with another AI in a different country, leading to complexity and conflicts of law. International law must adapt to designate a legal location for transactions made solely between autonomous electronic agents. This is also something that's going to evolve over time as we learn to figure out how to handle this kind of. Come to a summary of what we have discussed in this lecture. So we talked about applying AI in legal context, specifically talking about AI in legal research and in legal decision making. So in legal research, we talked about how AI can analyze large volumes of data. It can use natural language processing to understand patterns, precedents, case laws, statutes. And we talked about how legal decision making can also be enhanced with the use of AI to help individuals as well as businesses make better choices in legal decision making to identify costs as well as risks. Then we talked about natural language processing, how AI can go through massive databases using plain natural language rather than keywords. So then we talked about hallucinations as well, which is a very important issue given how AI systems work using probability and predicting the next word in a string of words. Then we talked about regulatory compliance and how businesses must follow best practices for data handling, ensuring confidentiality, transparency of processing of personal data, as well as being cognizant of AI's chilling effect on privacy. Then we talked about regulatory compliance, how businesses must follow best practices for data handling and ensure confidentiality, privacy, transparency, and also jurisdictional issues as well. Then we talked about what smart contracts are, how they work, how they are different from regular contracts because they are software, yet they are still very much covered within the Indian Contract Act because as long as they follow offer, acceptance, consideration, and intention and capacity obligations. Then we talked about where smart contracts can be used, different uses of smart contracts, enhancing automation, real-time adjustment, record management, traceability, simplification of buying and selling processes, CBDC projects, and so on. And then we talked about AI and contracts, specifically how AI can be used with smart contract before it is deployed on the blockchain, the legal challenges that might come with using AI and smart contracts, the misinterpretation of real world events, the irreversibility of executed smart contract code, lack of clarity regarding legal standing of AI contracts, bias, transparency, discrimination, and information asymmetry. And then we talked about the legal implications of AI. When AI is used as an electronic agent, what kinds of legal challenges that might come up? The black box issue, the very act of using AI as an electronic agent in contract formation, the issues of jurisdiction, and so on. So, with this, we come to the end of this lecture, and then from here on, we move to other topics related to AI and business law. So, thank you.